From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Avian flu continues to make headlines in the dairy industry. See what producers are doing to protect their herds. Preparing for the worst.
So we must ensure that we are safe and prepared.
As areas hard hit by recent severe weather now must prepare for hurricane season.
A majority having voted in favor, the motion is agreed to, and H.R. 8467, as amended, will be reported favorably to the House.
The House Ag Committee passes the Farm Bill, but doesn't stand a chance in the full House. The latest right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when the testing grounds meet the proving grounds. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The House version of the Farm Bill passed out of committee last week. 4 Democrats joining all 29 Republicans on the panel to pass the $1.51 trillion plan. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins me. Michelle, this bill still has a long ways to go before it becomes law.
Yeah, that's right. Despite the support of many of the major farm groups, there are several hurdles the bill has to overcome to become law, including passage through the full House. And that may be a tougher lift this time around because this bill doesn't have the overwhelming bipartisan support of past farm bills. Plus, we haven't seen the full Senate bill yet.
Most farm groups have reacted favorably to the passage of the Farm Bill by the House Ag Committee. American Soybean Association officials say it's a better safety net for farmers due to the updates to reference prices and base acres, plus the improvements to ARC payment calculations.
We believe it's very important to have improvements in the reference prices, especially for soy. We're very happy with the $10 that's been proposed relative to the $8.40 that is in statute right now. The greater accessibility to base acres. Very important too for farmers who just don't have access to the soybean farm safety net or other farm safety nets right now.
The key moving forward is what the Rules Committee does with the measure and how it's scored by CBO.
I have full confidence in Chairman Thompson's team as well as other Ag Committee leaders in making sure that everything fits together at the right time. So we have no doubt this was the first step in the process. We know that offsets and the budget, the numbers, all of that will be reconciled fully at a later date.
House Ag Committee Chair G.T. Thompson says full consideration by the House will not happen until September at the earliest. However, can the bill gain enough votes to pass?
We were heartened to see that 4 Democrats of the House Agriculture Committee supported the chairman's bill alongside all of the committee Republicans last night. We appreciate that they recognize the importance of the farm safety net and a number of other good provisions that were included in the chairman's bill. I'm very hopeful that momentum will continue to build among both Republicans and Democrats for getting a good, strong farm bill across the finish line this year.
Seifert says they're also waiting for text from Senate Ag Committee Chair Debbie Stabenow and Ranking Member John Bozeman, but aren't sure of the timing. They were disheartened by Stabenow's comments that key parts of the House bill split it in a way that makes it impossible to pass, but remain optimistic about full passage in 2024. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. The use of Commodity Credit Corporation funds has been a hot topic in the Farm Bill. USDA announcing the use of CCC funds to increase fertilizer production here at home. Now, Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack announcing $83 million in awards for projects in 12 states through the Fertilizer Production Expansion Program. One funding example, a company in California will use a $25 million grant to equip a food waste upcycling facility in Jurupa Valley. It uses insects to recycle food waste into an organic nutrient fertilizer. To date, USDA has invested $251 million in 57 projects across 29 states through the program. Now, the program was created to address rising fertilizer prices, which more than doubled between 2021 and 2022. USDA is also providing more help to dairy producers to help fight against H5N1. The expanded help includes support for dairy herds that have not tested positive for the virus. That means up to $1,500 to any producer to develop and implement a biosecurity plan. Vet costs associated with sampling for H5N1 and paying the cost of shipping samples to labs for testing. And the agency says it will soon issue a rule making funding available from the Emergency Assistance Program to compensate eligible producers with positive herds that are seeing a drop in milk production.
We're announcing a set of supports and tools for producers with H5N1 positive herds. H5N1 does dramatically limit milk production, which can cause economic loss for producers with affected premises.
We'll have an update on how dairy producers in the state of Georgia are working to protect their herds from the virus coming up. Well, we see quieter weather finally this week as many farmers work to wrap up planting. Meteorologist Martin Lormore has a look ahead for us.
Yeah, and with those storms now past us, the heat is still going to be there. We're sadly going to be seeing very warm temperatures across the south, maintaining that strength across most of the south. You can see temperatures 102 in Phoenix, near 100 degrees in El Paso. In Dallas, you got San Antonio over 110, Miami over 100. And as we are going to cool down into our overnight, it's really not going to provide much relief, unfortunately, because as we get into tomorrow, we're still going to be seeing triple-digit temperatures, not even counting in the heat in the season. You can see the 80s making their way all the way up to St. Louis and Tulsa. It's going to be a warm next couple of days. Look at Salt Lake, 86 degrees. Yeah, it's going to be very warm, but we are still seeing the rainfall as we get into that Tuesday. You can see where the rain moving across as we get into that Tuesday time frame. As we see the center part of the nation, more of that rain. Not expecting this to be too severe as of yet for that Wednesday, but as this moves on, it could spark up some stronger weather into our Thursday in the southeast part of the country. So just watching for more of that rainfall. Hopefully areas that do need it eventually get some of that rainfall. And take a look at this. This is not an old photo. Bridger Livestock taking this photo just last Thursday in south central Montana. That area, they've seen a bit of everything this past week, from heavy snow to rain that even caused some flooding. Bridger Livestock reported they actually lost electricity as well. They were trying to keep the electric fences going with 12-volt chargers. Hopefully, power is finally back on for them. I'll have more on the forecast coming up.
Record rain, a possible record tornado season, and now maybe a record hurricane season too. 2024 is rewriting the weather history books, and it's only May. Now, as Amy Kiley reports, some communities that are rebuilding from recent storms are also preparing for future ones.
It was pretty scary because we heard things outside.
This tornado season could be one of the most active in modern history, with more than 800 twisters reported so far this year.
Seconds after we closed the doors when we knew everything was breaking loose.
Now NOAA's National Hurricane Center says this could be the worst hurricane season ever, largely due to the warmest ocean surface temperatures on record. The agency's newly released preseason forecast predicts between 17 and 25 named storms. 8 to 13 could become hurricanes. That means some people still rebuilding from severe weather.
It's not a week-long process. It's several months of work.
Are also preparing for the future.
Just making sure, getting them tightened up for hurricane season, making sure you can keep the water out.
The timing is especially a concern for Gulf Coast communities where the ground is waterlogged from record rain. Hurricanes there could bring disastrous flooding.
We know that just one storm can cause a catastrophic impact, so we must ensure that we are safe and prepared.
All right, thanks, Amy. Well, Memorial Day marks the unofficial end of the planting season. We'll discuss that and potential market direction as we head into June coming up next. And later we'll visit a dairy in Georgia as it focuses on safety during the latest outbreak of H5N1. That story in the country. Coming off a long holiday weekend, markets will be in search of new guidance. Michelle Rook has more in Markets Now.
Welcome to Markets Now. Garrett Toy with Ag Trader Talk is back with us, and we've had a nice spring rally in the grains. Garrett, let's talk about the corn market. When do we normally or seasonally put our highs in?
Usually it's around the third week of June, and now it's coming off the Memorial Day weekend. We're the official start of summer, so we'll be looking for those seasonal highs here. Obviously the spring has been a little bit difficult between the planting delays. We've now caught up, and now it's turning a little bit wet again. It may get a little interesting here. We final couple weeks into the final spring crop insurance planting dates. If wet weather continues for areas, but on that final 30% of the U.S. corn planting. But for the most part, I think you look at seasonal highs here the next 3-4 weeks. We've had a money market short that's essentially the funds are neutral here. That can go either way. And as we get into these seasonal tendencies, which direction are the funds going to want to go? They just covered their short. It seems unlikely given the S&Ds that they want to get long in here by any means. Whether they want to reestablish those shorts here once they have more information on how this growing season progresses will be the key attributing feature.
That and the June acreage report, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the next 2 weeks are going to be fairly important as far as, obviously not only are they surveying the June acreage report, but how that's going to determine here. Iowa's got a lot of rain this week. We still had 30% of the U.S. corn crop, even though we are caught up with the 5-year average. We still have 30% of the U.S. corn crop that still needs to be planted. That fringe acres, a million acres here or there could make some differences on the S&Ds.
What about the seasonals for soybeans? Is there more downside risk there as well or not?
If you look at the on-farm prices, as far as the USDA's view, there seems to be a lot more downside risk in soybeans than there is in corn. Obviously, though, I think, the market is trying to digest this old crop situation with China buying old crop U.S. beans here and the fertile South American prices. Whether this is a realization that, the crop size is just not as big as what we thought it was, what we've been talking about the last 2-3 months.
Thanks for joining us. Garrett Trey, Ag Trader. Talk a lot more AgDay coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rourke on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
To contact Garrett, call him at 888-745-2020 or find him at agtradertalk.com.
Yeah, the new drought monitor came out this past weekend and didn't really give us much relief in some places. We're still seeing a bit of a drought in parts of South Florida where temperatures have been skyrocketing into the triple digits. And then we zoom into the southwestern part of the country. You can see that area in Kansas that has been very pestered with a lack of rainfall. A lot of winter wheat there being harvested next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, the drought is still there, sitting in the severe drought and even a little bit of extreme drought in that little area shaded in red. And of course, the only part of the country, in hindsight, it is a good thing to see this, but the only part of the country still sitting in the exceptional in parts of southeast New Mexico. Most of New Mexico is under a red flag warning as of right now, so that's going to stick around until they get some rainfall. And unfortunately, not going to be seeing any significant rainfall in the next couple of days, at least this next week for almost the entire state of New Mexico. So hopefully things do start getting better with that forecast in just the next couple of weeks. So let's look at the precipitation over the next week. We are going to be seeing that rain moving in again across parts of eastern Kansas. We need that rain to move just a little bit over into western Kansas. So like I said, no real significant rainfall in parts of New Mexico, though areas that don't necessarily need it, yet again, getting more of that rain. Areas in parts of Texas up to 2 to 3 inches in some parts of South Texas. Granted, that will help out in the case of cooling things down, but not really what they're wanting to see. Some more of that rainfall. They've been seeing flooding already across most of the deep south, and unfortunately seeing more of that rainfall, though not much significant rainfall in parts of the southeast. That is a good thing right there. As we look at the precipitation outlook, there is that area that we're going to be seeing that rainfall moving across. Hopefully that can make its way into parts of western Kansas, giving them some rainfall. Drying out a little bit in the southeast, that could definitely help out their overabundance of rainfall. But the temperatures, watching as we see the next low making its way through, that's going to bring in warm temperatures ahead of that low. That's where this big swath is moving through for the first couple of days of our June. So it's something we're watching pretty closely as we watch. There is that low right there making its way through. Very warm air through that Tuesday and Wednesday, moving all the way up across parts of the Rockies. There's that low moving its way through for Thursday as we see the next low moving into the country. Red Lodge, Montana. High only 60 degrees, sunny, very beautiful weather there. Chandler, Oklahoma, a bit different, still sunny, but very hot near 90 degrees. And finally, Youngstown, Ohio, scattered thunderstorms. Highs pretty good though, 73.
It's not only planting season, it's also haying season. We'll look at some recent equipment prices with Machinery Pete next. And later, we're off to Georgia to see how dairy operations are working to protect their herds and their employees from the latest outbreak of H5N1 in the country. Hay is just about ready to cut at my house, and Machinery Pete says if you're looking for equipment, here's what you should expect at auction.
Well, folks, two trends I've been talking about here quite a bit recently, how good used loader tractors have been in demand and auction price has been very strong, and also good used hay equipment sort of been on fire, were both confirmed on an online auction last week by my good friends at the Steffes Group. They had an online sale with equipment from all over the Midwest. And here are a couple items that sold on that sale. Here's a picture of a 2016 New Holland T6 180 with a loader, 2,524 hours on it, sold for $66,500. That's the second highest auction price ever on a T6 180 with over 1,000 hours on it. And again, this one had 2,524 hours. Now, incidentally, the Steffes Group also has the highest auction price ever on a T6 180 over 1,000 hours. That was back on June 26th of 2020, so 4 years ago. Another 16 model, 1,856 hours with a loader, one for $68,500 on that sale. Now, also on the sale last Thursday, on the topic of good used hay equipment, this 2020 Case H RB 565 Premium Round Baler out of Arnegard, North Dakota, with 1,597 bales on it, sold for $37,500. Third highest auction price I've ever seen on an RB 565 Premium. And oh, by the way, just 2 weeks ago, May 7th, on a consignment auction out of Hydro, Oklahoma by Entz Auction and Realty, this 22 model RB 565 Premium, no bales on it, brand new, sold for $52,000, second highest auction price ever.
All right, thanks, Pete. Well, the dairy industry has been battling an outbreak of H5N1. First reported in Texas, now operations in other states are taking steps to reduce their risk. We're off to Georgia next. USDA is now reporting there are 58 cases of dairy herds with H5N1, but in 9 states. However, other states are on high alert to fight back against the virus. As Damon Jones of the Georgia Farm Monitor shows us what Georgia dairy producers are doing to safeguard their herds.
With nearly 100 dairy operations around Georgia, responsible for 235 million gallons of milk every year, it's an important industry for the state's economy. And while rising input costs and low commodity prices are always a concern for producers, the recent detection of avian influenza within a few herds across 9 different states has also caught their attention.
This disease is obviously concerning. It's relatively new to the dairy industry. We're not entirely sure how it's going to affect cattle moving forward. Overall, it will cause a little bit of loss of milk production for herds. We do see cattle that become clinically ill from this disease, but they tend to recover very quickly. And so the milk production will come back. We don't see a significant amount of death loss, but it seems to be just an infection that comes in, affects a group of animals, and then tends to move out.
So while it appears this disease provides no long-term effect to the herd, it is something producers should have on their radar, considering just how difficult it is to control.
It is a disease that's going to move, and one of the ways we've identified it as spreading is through wildfowl. And so obviously those birds move from farm to farm. They're chasing water supplies and feed ingredients. And so it is a disease that we're going to continue to monitor and move, but we may not have a lot of control over it. Another way it's moved is through cattle transportation. And so cattle that move from farm to farm have a risk of spreading this disease with them.
For that reason, USDA has imposed more testing protocols, as each cow must now be tested by a certified and licensed Georgia veterinarian before being transported. It's an additional but necessary step to ensure both food safety and containment.
Regulatory testing has added some additional guidelines for producers before they start to move cattle across state lines. So it is some extra work that they have to do. It is some homework from the part of the veterinarian as well as the farm. But a lot of dairy producers, when they do move cattle, they have to do some regulatory testing anyway. So it's one more step that they have to do. But it's all designed to ensure a safe, healthy, and wholesome herd and food supply.
With that food safety being the top priority, FDA recently confirmed that pasteurization of milk consistent with the federal grade A PMO kills any harmful pathogenic bacteria and microorganisms, including the highly pathogenic avian influenza. However, it could create a decrease in production, which is why there is one major symptom producers should be on the lookout for.
Most common thing that we see with this new high-path avian influenza in cattle is a loss in milk production. And so what we're seeing is a thicker milk supply from that cow. She's still producing some milk, but it almost has the consistency of colostrum, or that early milk production she has after she has a calf.
Reporting from Athens, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
And our thanks to Damon Jones and the Georgia Farm Monitor for sharing that story with us. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.